Hi guys, I'm not political commentator Owen Jones' biggest fan, but he completely destroyed the pathetic arguments put forward against the idea of paying workers decent wages by a former Michael Gove advisor. Perhaps when the Brexiteer famously said the public are sick of experts, he may have been speaking about Charlie here. The context, of course, is that some workers in the public sector are receiving a pay increase and thus some strikes will be avoided. But the former Tory advisor believes this would be bad for the economy. Owen here schools him on why this is completely wrong.
There are people in public sector workers, like the police, like the armed forces, that cannot strike, obviously for good reason, to keep us all safe. But we're now seeing above inflation pay rises for some public sector workers. I'm all for increases in pay, but it's got to be funded. And if you don't fund it properly, what you're going to end up doing is choking off growth, choking off any kind of recovery when we've gone through a huge pandemic, by the way, which has cost a lot of money, where taxes have had to increase. You need to get that tax burden down. You need to grow the economy. You don't grow the economy to share that distribution by more strikes and increase in pay and by being in cahoots and controlled by your union.
Terrible economics, which is why...
Owen, quick response to this.
And by the way, Labour MPs are in the pockets of the unions. They're being funded by the unions, no end.
Well, hold on. Your party's funded by big businesses. I think there's a difference between ordinary workers putting...
Entrepreneurs.
No, big businesses who often pay poverty. The people who make this economy tick are workers. The people who get up every day and they put in hard graft and they get paid often way too little. Now, what we're looking at here is workers through their unions, democratic organisations, and you say paymasters. The RMT don't fund the Labour Party. They're not affiliated to the Labour Party. Now, I wish Labour did listen more to the trade unions. They've actually run roughshod over a lot of what the trade unions have asked for. They're not giving them the pay that they asked for in the first place. You said about shaking off the economy. Bad economics, and it just shows why we ended up in this place. Just quickly, if you put money in the pockets of workers, what do? They go out and spend it. This lot instead gave tax cuts to rich people. What happens when they save money? They put in a tax haven.
Or they invested in assets, which of course drive up asset prices, which of course drive up housing, for example, because it's treated as an asset, and it makes it more difficult for ordinary people to get on the property ladder. Look, so many questions here. Why the hell is a former Tory advisor being interviewed on Sky News? Like, this is the party that crashed the economy with Liz Truss. This is the party that drove public services into the ground. This is the party that picked fights with the trade unions for ideological reasons. They were not interested in resolving these problems. They realized we can use this for political gain. We can point the finger at the trade unions for the strikes, for industrial action, for all of these things. And the question was never asked, why are they going on strike? I asked these questions. Unfortunately, journalists did not. They would have people like Michael Gove on, or people from the Conservative Party on, or ministers or whatever, and they would ask them about the strikes. What are you doing to try and stop the strikes? And they would rant and rave about how they care about public services and about providing a service to the public. But they were never asked, why are these people going on strike? The reason they're going on strike is over pay and conditions. And many workers have faced a pay freeze over the last number of years. And we saw inflation last year, the year before, running at over 10%. But people's pay did not increase by 10%. In many cases, it was either frozen or increased very little. But this whole idea that, well, the Conservatives are the party of business, not business, of the rich. They are happy to give tax cuts to the rich and then sell it as, well, don't worry, it will trickle down to the poorest in society. And don't give money to the poorest in society because, well, that'll drive inflation. This is the party that gave billions, not millions, but billions, to their friends and donors during the pandemic, for example, PPE contracts and stuff like that. Was any of that clawed back? Well, very little. Were any of these people put in prison? None. So let's stop listening to the Conservatives and their special advisors, because these people are part of the problem. If you want to grow the economy, you need people in work. You need people being paid decent wages. And of course, they will spend that money in the local economy. But you also need to retain staff. If you're not willing to pay them decent wages, they will go and do something else, or they will leave the country, as I've mentioned before when it came to nurses. Do you want that? The Conservatives are happy for that. they believe that the private sector can pick up the slack. Of course it can't, but they're in an ideological battle with trade unions and the left. Let's not pay people more wages. Let's drive wages down because it's best for our donors and our supporters. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.